Happy Friday, everyone. Big news this week has been Nvidia, and it didn't disappoint. Yet it did disappoint at the same time. Just having a little bit of fun here. Great numbers. They did very well. And Jensen Huang came on and gave some guidance, but not all the guidance that analysts would have liked. They wanted to have firmer numbers. But overall, I mean, I think a lot of people were waiting for a disappointment, and if that could have been really earth-shattering. And that brings up what we've been talking about quite a bit about: are we relying too much on too few companies to drive an entire economy? And there's an argument for both sides because I would say, arguably, or maybe easily, tech, especially AI, is the most important thing right now in total, because if it can do, say, a quarter of what some of the myths and some of the hopeful kind of thoughts are on it, it's a race, and we want to get there first, because it will solve the other problems that we're working on anyway. That would be the hope, and that would be the dream of it. Now, why that's a bit of a myth and a bit of a hopefulness is that trying to find where this is going to make money all along that curve is still kind of up in the air. I mean, things like ChatGTP and OpenAI, large language models in general, they are very helpful. They're great tools, but how much are people going to keep on willing to pay for them in the long run? We know that enterprise and businesses, the better these get, the better they can research, the more accurate they can become, will be invaluable. They'll be great. And we're not even talking about the generative AI. I know people like to throw around terms all the time, and that makes it quite difficult. But that kind of brings in with when you talk about generative AI is that if you believe that the course of action for all of AI moving forward will be, faster speed, better chips, more hardware, more data, bigger data, be able to compress more data, more power, then Nvidia is the way to go, because they'll keep on making stronger chips that will be able to crunch better and faster and more complex, and that's the theme. So if your idea is that is how it's going to be moving forward, there's very, very little risk. But at the same time, bear in mind, Intel, which was like the chip maker, they're really having a hard time. They're as we've talked about before, they're struggling, and they're trying to they might reorganize, and they might spin off, and they might do this and they might do that, but they're very much disappointed. And part of that, I guess, to some degree, would be the fact that this whole new chip surge and this whole new AI maybe caught them flat-footed. There's a lot of other issues, but you can see how fast a company that you'd never think would struggle can go in the back burner in technology. Now, with the entire notion of machine learning and AGI and whatnot, before we get into the bigger question about how it would affect precious metals, is there a correlation there? And just moving forward, is there an issue, and the jury's certainly out on this, with that idea of it only being bigger, stronger, faster, stronger chips, more data, compressing more data, and analyzing more data? Or is it that the whole question needs to be looked at in a different biological framework of how a brain actually works, to go, can you train an actual generative AI, so actual neural net or artificial intelligence, to teach itself and to learn, not just have it go into the internet and scour everything? As amazing as that is, I'm not taking anything away from that, like a large language model. Are you able to train it? There is one company out there that's working on that particular end, but people may think that's just pie in the sky. I mean, that's unlikely, or we're 5, 10, 15 years away from that. But I'm not even going to mention the company. You can reach out to me if you'd like. But they are making claims that they can teach their AI to do things, at least at a very minuscule scale, with like a quarter of the power, a quarter of the energy, the quarter of the data. So my question to everyone is, do you think that there needs to be a whole other shift of how to look to solve this problem? Because we've heard a lot about the issue of energy. I mean, if you think there's an energy transition issue and problem right now, when you factor in what AI is going to take, and let's pull this up actually, Goldman Sachs, We've talked about this on another podcast before, but it's poised to drive 160% increase in data center power demand. That alone, I believe it's something like a chat GTP alone or large language model takes 10 times as much electricity as a Google search. Like that is enormous. And once again, I don't want this all to be about AI and getting into the nitty gritty about all these things, but it's about putting things into perspective and to say, well, what, we're not quite at the area. Whereas if say, also I'll preface this by pulling up another Goldman Sachs article where it says AI is showing very positive signs of eventually boosting GDP and productivity. So acknowledging that we're not there, there's a lot of maybes and it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Same kind of conversation we've heard about nuclear fusion, we've heard about crypto. It's going to, and Bitcoin, it does this, it does that, it's going to change this, and it doesn't. I mean, and they don't. There's a lot of active promotion and marketing and all of this stuff. But I think that most people would admit that money towards AI is money well spent, as much as there's ethical and moral considerations and there's concerns and there's worries. But certainly, since there is a race for it, I would certainly much rather have it in the hands of the West than it would be in some of our not so friendly counterparts. Why this all matters, and we kind of want to tie it all in together as well, is that I wanted to bring up an article by Peter Schiff, and here's something where I like to kind of put things in a bit of a balance. If you're focused on a lot of things that I would like to consume often in mining, so we look at Kitco, we'll look at Peter Schiff, we'll look at more alternative sources and the away from just the CNBC mainstream kind of outlets of news. That dichotomy of opinion is so far apart. It's shocking. And that's always existed. I mean, there's always been the doomsayers at the end of the world type things, but there's certainly a very good case to be made. And I wanted to bring it up because people are saying, the Fed is being forced into adjusting rates down. Now, these are people reading in quite a bit as well. And unfortunately nowadays too, like the algorithms start factoring in these things right off the bat. And it's important to see where all the money flows to as well, and the disconnect between the economy and the stock market and everything else. But he's saying that if you think there's a problem now, essentially, wait till you see the depreciation in the dollar and what's to come. If almost regardless of what you do at this stage, he said that the Fed has made a huge mistake, and he's making the case for gold. Now. Once again, you have to put that into a bit of a preface of he's a gold bug. He always has been. He's been a naysayer for a very long period of time. And, the problem with reading too much of the kind of mining side of things and that side is that it always looks gloomy and terrible because, well, mining is very difficult and challenging and gloomy. And we wonder when our day in the sun will come. Gold... in the past, people have kind of said, well, gold is archaic. We don't need it. And I would have been one of those people as well, by the way, in the 2000s when I was at Merrill Lynch. I missed out on that run. That was a huge run in mining at that point because I just wasn't interested. But, things are cyclical. And there's more of a case today from sheer numbers and size of debt out there to drive the economy forward that, whatever happens here with rates and whatever happens with, October, November, there's going to be some changes. And there's also not going to be some changes. So let's just move on from that for a quick second, because I saw an article here, and also, we were at a Red Cloud event and Mining for Beers event yesterday, which was a lot of fun. You get to chat with a lot of people that in the mining space, especially. And this article came out, posted by a lot of different people. It's S&P Global. U.S. energy transition faces pivotal moment in 2024. I won't even say that word because it's a tough one to even mention if you want to put your YouTube stuff out. So I'll leave that out. You can read the title there. I believe this is just fake news essentially, and I can make that point by saying obviously Biden administration which is Obama and Clinton administration, whether it's Kamala in charge or whoever's going to be in charge if they win, behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, whoever the lead singer of the band is going to be, they're on board with the energy transition. I think no one's arguing with that. The big issue for someone in my side was, were they going to get on board with nuclear? And they have been. The Democrats have come around, and they've put in their Inflation Reduction Act, although the Wall Street Journal said it was about a $1.2 billion direct bill for that part of it. 369 of that went to green energy deals now, and loans and whatnot. What this article is trying to put in is that they talked to a couple of people. They wouldn't say who, but they mentioned some names of numbers, and this might be a real hardship for mining companies because of the policies of Donald Trump, which is absolutely ludicrous considering you can pull up from the Trump White House. President Donald Trump is protecting our domestic mining industry and critical mineral supply chain. They're all for it. Where they're trying to tie two things together is they're trying to make it seem like they're not both on side for mining. They both are. Now the proof is in the pudding to see what, we've seen a lot of projects be, axed by the Biden administration, even though they're saying they're pro, and these are critical metal ones. And we've also seen it from the Donald as well. So what I don't like about this article is that it is propaganda and it's not true. And I don't care which side it is, but this is what we're dealing with misinformation all the time, is that both very firmly acknowledge critical metals. They're very well aware, perhaps for different reasons. I would say without a doubt, will there be fracking if there's a change in the upcoming event of October, November? Yeah, they're going to do a lot more of that. But the other thing I want to kind of put that into context is that doesn't mean it derails any transition. They're both going to do it. The money is flowing that way. Now, one can make the argument that maybe not towards certain ones that leaders don't feel are as effective and efficient. We know both sides are okay with uranium and for nuclear. We both know that they are okay with electric vehicles. We know that they're okay with critical metals. So that's fine. So that covers a lot right there. Where they are not as much would be on solar and wind. And that's although a huge capital outlay of that has gone to those, it's an extremely minute portion of energy consumption. And to put that into perspective too, and this isn't slagging or slighting anyone, we can pull up from Reuters here, Biden's oil boom. One would think that oil and gas had suffered and really done terribly, and although the stock has, because people are discouraged from investing in these companies, there's been a huge boom in that business. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that I don't know if there's going to be that much of an issue when it comes to the portion of the world that we're very excited about, which is, when will this metals thing take off? When will this mining thing kick off? So I think on all fronts, it remains unfazed and untouched. When we were speaking to a bunch of people yesterday, what I would love to see is the talks in the US about having a Bureau of Mines again. Have something like that for Canada as well. That is a streamlined organization, kind of like an energy department. Get rid of all the other permitting, all the other regulatory bodies, all the other things, and have it streamlined. Boom. One body, one organization that gets permitting projects to fruition and funded to meet the demand if there is an environmental crisis. If you're to believe the entire ESG story, and that we're facing this existential crisis, then why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we having a roadmap that gets these metals for us and to us to help solve this problem? And that's a question I think you have to ask every person involved on all sides to see what's true and what's not. There's lots of talk, but why aren't we seeing things? So I want to put that into context because, my bias, of course, is I love technology. I think, and I don't want to get too much into the AI thing because there's so many ethical and moral questions. I mean, just the positive and negative of that causes so much stress for most people as to what that might bring, all the the advantages, all the extra tools, never mind the fun kind of stuff where people are playing around with the photo, but just the constant misinformation that can come, never mind the deep fakes that can come. I mean, there's lots of those shallow issues, never mind to the bigger issues of relying on AI too much. That alone, if I tie all these topics together, is we need to have enough energy to support this AI boom. We want to see more actual revenue from not just Nvidia and the hyperscalers or the hardware developers and the infrastructure builders. Of where does this apply to start making lots of money and really deep, significant changes for a wide, vast other AI developers? We're not seeing them move quite so much. We want to see those really take hold. That's where I think some people are taking their foot off the pedal a bit with Nvidia, because they made a ton of money, is to kind of go, okay, what's the next step? We want to see more. And that's fine. But on that, I would say we need to see so much more as far as energy. And that energy independence is a close second to, I mean, military might as well. That's a huge benefit as well to how we're going to advance things moving forward. And, to wrap this up, I mean, this is a pretty, big rant to get a whole bunch of different things, on the table to talk about and to tie them all together. I wanted to bring up something just a little bit more kind of funny, is that I saw this on Instagram. I thought it was a joke because I like some of these meme things out there. And it was, and this is from, S&P Global as well, the deadlift ETF. So this, so there's actually an exchange traded fund that's performed 140% higher than the S&P 500. And it's the brainchild of this entrepreneur, Peter Levels, known as Level CO or Level SIO. So this ETF tracks basically fitness. Those CEOs who lift, who work out, who pump iron. And this deadlift ETF, which I just think is a funny name, has actually performed much better than one would ever think. So this is interesting, because is there a correlation? One could probably make the argument that, yeah, if you work out and you keep your mind clear and you're healthier, you'll make better decisions. You relieve yourself of stress, and you feel brighter. You've got more energy. Okay. Or is this one of those cases of just finding patterns where there are no patterns? So I'd love to see your opinion on that as well, on a more fun level. A deadlift ETF, I think, is hilarious. It was kind of very similar to like the meme stocks that were doing Pelosi ETFs and trades, or Congress in general trades, and doing exceptionally well if you just followed them. And I want to bring that up because that comes back to the entire idea that we talk about of having a model. And a lot of people don't have necessarily a model as to how they invest, but that is a model. It could be as silly as that is just trying to say, hey, we're just going to track these people that seem to be doing exceptionally well because of their access to information. Why don't we do that? That's how the original crypto, kind of boom happened, was people just in chat rooms going from which one are we buying next? Which one are we buying next? Which one are we buying next? And that's how pump and dumps work. I mean, that's what you do. Anyways, big long rant here. End of August. We're going to be moving into September. We're hopeful that things in Canada might start to pick up. We need rates to drop significantly here. We need businesses to be, more of a highlight in Canada overall, thematically, for other countries to want to invest in us. And I think we're going to start to see that. I think, there's always going to be challenges, but I think that there is some positive coming, and it would be great to see more of that message going out. We're not going to see it quite soon because there's a lot of politics happening, but it would be nice that we could get through that phase and then somehow find a middle ground to find something to unite on and get excited about, and to say, listen, here's the promise of AI. Here's what it can do. Do we feel like it's in the right hands of people who can make good decisions? Here's our energy mode. Let's find the middle ground there of fact versus a lot of fiction and a lot of propaganda on both sides. So I'm very much in the center there, and find some common ground to feel like we're countries again, like bounded together in a struggle together. That would be a much positive, kind of approach to the years ahead, rather than fighting all of these big changes, these huge chaotic changes, and then doing that while we're fighting each other. And it doesn't work. It takes too much energy, and we need that energy to go into the brainchild of AI, and to figure out this transition and new ways of technology and getting lithium out of the ground. You name it, all that stuff. We need not only the funds, but the technical ability and the intelligence to do that. And having to force to look at all this internal fighting within our own nations and countries is too much energy. So anyways, that's my rant. Enjoy this long weekend here in Canada, and the last of August going into September. And we look forward to talking to you next week when we're into September. And I think we're going to see some change happening here pretty quickly. Anyways, take care and enjoy yourself.